Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel all about BI. In this video I am going to take you through the process of finding latest subfolders among existing subfolders under a particular root folder. In my case it is under input folder. We have 4 subfolders, right? So we have to find out which one is the latest from here. So if you look here, 2023-12, so this was last modified at Jan 2024 10/18. Okay, so similarly this Jan 27 2024 10/48. So similarly I have two more subfolders where test and test2. Among them test2 is the latest, so test will be modified today 11/8 am, and then test2 will be 11/9. Okay, so test is modified around 11/8 and test2 is modified around 11/9. Okay, so among all this, the latest folder is, or the latest modified folder is test2, right? So we have to find this out using data factory without using Azure function or any other external entity, right? So how do we do that? Before we start with, I have a variable called a latest timestamp that will hold way older timestamp. Okay, so I know that I won't have any folder which was modified earlier than this time, 21st January 2022. So I just had this. If you want to be on the safer side, you can even take this to even older years. Okay, probably 2018 or 2020 or even 2000 or whatever year you want. Okay, this is a dummy date. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, this get metadata activity is first going to take out all the subfolders and files inside my input folder. So in my case there is no input file, but in real time if you have files sitting over here, we have to filter them out. So what I'm doing, so first metadata is to get the subfolders and files inside a particular input folder. This will be filtering out only folders, ignoring files using this expression, and then I have to loop through each and every subfolder and take its date time and then compare it with the variable that I have. For example, I will be taking folder 1. Okay, take its timestamp, compare it with the variable timestamp. If the variable timestamp is lesser than the folder timestamp, what I will do, I will replace the variable timestamp value with the folder timestamp value. Okay, so variable is holding 2022. If my folder is having a newer last modified date, I will be replacing the variable value with the newer timestamp. So for every folder you have to do this. Ultimately the latest timestamp variable will be updated with the greater timestamp among two timestamps that we are handling. Okay, so that is what we are doing using for each loop. In for each loop I am just going through sequential mode because I am making use of couple of variables inside. I will show you that. So I am making it sequential, and the items are nothing but the filtered out folder names from the filter activity. So inside for each loop I have one more get metadata. Why I want to take this out is, use this is to take out the last modified date of each subfolder. Okay, from the outside get metadata activity you will get the subfolder names alone. Okay, you will not get the property called last modified date. So if you want to take out the last modified date of each folder, I will be using one more get metadata here to take out the last modified date. So in the argument, if you see, I am using last modified date. So using this last modified date, I am using an if condition here. Inside if condition I am passing two parameters. One is the last modified date brought by get metadata 2 activity, which is inside the loop, and then the other parameter is my variable, which is having 2022 timestamp. Okay, so it will compare the folder timestamp with the variable timestamp, and if the folder timestamp is greater, what it is doing, it is using two set variable. One set variable will replace the latest timestamp in the variable with the current timestamp of the folder, okay, which is brought by the get metadata activity, and there is second set variable activity here which will be capturing the folder name, because it's not enough if we capture the latest timestamp alone. We need to know the folder name also, right? So for that I'm using one more set variable activity, that is capturing item dot name. So finally, after the if and for everything runs fine, we will be having two things. One is the latest timestamp in the latest timestamp variable, and the folder name of the corresponding timestamp in the folder name variable. So what I'm doing, I'm assigning the folder name variable to final variable so that I can just have a look at it. Okay, so I executed the pipeline. I will show you the output now. So filter out, if I had 4 items, of them 4 were filtered because there were no files at all, so all the 4 were considered. So these are the 4 folders that I had in my input folder. And then get metadata activity will bring last modified date of each of those subfolders, right? So first time it will bring 27 January 2024, and then in the second time same timestamp, because 2 folders were having almost the same timestamp. And then the third folder March 23 today 11/8, and then one more get metadata should bring 11/9. Okay, so every time get metadata brings a value, if condition will evaluate that value with the variable value, and if the get metadata value is greater than the variable value, it will go and assign to the variables. Okay, if the get metadata variable value is lesser than the variable value, it is not going to assign anything. So finally, if you look at the final variable, I will be, where is that? So I'm just trying to look at the last part of the execution. Okay, the last activity itself is set variable 2. So this is the last one, which is having the name of the folder which is latest. In our case it is test2, which was modified 11/9 AM, right? So this is about final variable. We can also take a look at the timestamp that is brought by the latest timestamp variable. So this is how the whole solution works. So it will work fine for almost all the cases, but if there are too many subfolders, like thousands of subfolders, it might take some time. Okay, for me, for the 4 folders it doesn't take much time, but in case you have lot many subfolders, we'll have to see the performance accordingly. Okay, and we have to mend the solution a little bit then and there as required, right? So hope it helps. If you have any questions, you can let me know in the comment section. Thanks a lot for watching. Keep supporting.